good exit.
Anyway, Series 9, we have the Daleks two-parter. It's a series of two-parters, isn't it? Because everyone was crying out for two-parters. So it's the Davros two-parters, then the Toby Whithouse Under the Lake two-parter, and then a sort of two-parter, The Girl Who Died, The Woman Who Lived. And then the bloody Zygon thing.
Oh, yeah.
Sleep No More, Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, Hell Bent.
There's not a lot to like in this. Heaven Sent, which was different. I think I had something to dislike about every other single episode, I think. There was something, it just did nothing for me at all. It was just very disappointing, in my opinion. The Dalek one is like the Davros thing. It was so contrived. You knew the kid was Davros. Like it was obvious from about the first minute that Davros was in to go, oh, that kid's going to be Davros. And I was just like, yeah.
I quite liked the first minute.
Yeah, but then it just sort of went downhill after that.
I'm more positive about this season. I mean, I wouldn't say I loved it, but I thought it was quite decent in places. The first two-parter, the first part was trying a bit too hard, but Missy was good all the way through it. Love saves the day, I think, at the end. The Under the Lake Before the Flood thing from our favourite writer, Mr. Whithouse. Again, I thought that was quite good. I mean, they do actually do a bit of time travel. They call out the bootstrap paradox thing that solves the problem, and
Yeah, look, I liked the first episode. The second episode was disappointing after the first one, I thought.
Yeah.
If
a story is going to be so complicated that you need exposition with the Capaldi breaking the fourth wall or whatever he does, explaining the bootstrap paradox, then it's too complicated for me.
Yeah.
Although it's quite, I think it's elegantly done with the old Beethoven thing. I think you could argue that you don't need it, but if you've got it, then I think that.
No, you probably do need it.
Doing it,
but you shouldn't need it. Is my point. Anyway, yeah, but it was okay. And then we've got the Ashilda.
The two-parter. Yeah, couldn't really give a monkeys about that one. Particularly the second one.
Yeah, and then the Zygon two-parter. What do we think of the Zygon two-parter?
I didn't think it was all that bad. The first one, the second one, I don't know. And I think that everybody goes on about the end speech, but I think it's slightly overrated. But I think the Zygons have a bit more to do in this one than they did in the 50th. But apart from that, I'm not so sure. It's lots of people seem to like it, but I feel that I don't overall. But I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'm one of those people. So I didn't love it, but I liked it.
Because it goes back to the audio stuff, really, doesn't it? The Zygon who fell to Earth and that type of stuff.
Complete and utter dross. Absolutely hated it from the very first moment. You've absolutely no chance of suspending your disbelief when you are told that there are X million Zygons integrated into the human race. I can't believe that. I think that
this was
if there were 5,
yeah,
I could go with that. Or if there were 20, I could go with that. But when it's X million, it's just not. How are you supposed to relate to that situation? Because it simply isn't true. Apart from a really clumsy allegory about immigration.
Yes, it's a bit Brexit.
It's very clumsy.
I hate it. I hate UNIT. I hate the abuse of UNIT.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that pissed me off in the last series. All my father ever wanted was a salute from the Doctor, or whatever it was. No, he didn't. It just didn't. He just doesn't understand classic characters, Moffat. Anyway, that's that one.
He'd have been appalled, wouldn't he? Because you don't salute if you're not in uniform.
Thank you. Yeah. Sometimes he's president of the Earth, as fits. Sometimes he delegates responsibility because he can't be involved. It's not his planet. But sometimes he's president. It just... Sleep No More.
Oh, that's awful.
To cheer us all up. That was brilliant.
It was crap.
Oh, God, that was another bunch of toss.
Yes.
Not quite as good as the Idiot's Lab.
And then Face the Raven, where Clara, once and for all, dies.
Yes.
Never to be seen again.
Yeah, well, yeah, so we hoped.
Yeah.
It was very Harry Potterish, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's
very
about the
Harry
only thing that was memorable about it, and Clara dying, and that was about it. It's
So when I was a lad, I went to a convention in Liverpool. Philip Martin was there, the writer of season 23. So he'd written the Sill story,
Mind Warp.
at the end of which Perry dies, and quite shockingly. And then about 5 episodes later, that masterful Pip and Jane Baker epic shows that in fact what happened was she fell in love with Earcanus, and she
I'm
was
in
all
love
right.
with Brian Blessed. I don't know who isn't.
Yeah.
she obviously her hearing had gone.
So
Dear listeners, try typing Brian Blessed on Gallifrey Base. See what happens. True story. Go and if you don't know what happens, go and type Brian Blessed on Gallifrey Base.
So anyway, Philip Martin is on stage and he's talking about this, and so I got to the question and answer. I said to him, "Well, that was flattering him. That was a great ending to Mind Warp. I mean, actually, I think it was a great ending. But I said, but how did it feel to have had the stuffing taken right out of it by just a few weeks later saying actually nothing happened? The whole kind of thing that you felt that you went through with Perry dying meant nothing, and he was." He was pretty fed up, actually. And I mean, I think subsequently I read that Nathan Turner put him up to it. He didn't necessarily want to do it, but he'd been told to do it, and he puts all that effort into it, and then of course it's nothing comes to it. And anyway, I mean, this is a really long-winded way of saying this is exactly what happens to Sarah Dollard here, who invests a lot of emotion in the idea that Clara is dying. It's well put together. It's a nice scene, and then it's completely undercut by what happens 2 weeks later.
Yeah, what a good parallel. Terrible. Heaven Sent, Hellbent.
Look, Heaven Sent was different. Heaven Sent was different. It was a one-hander, and it was quite good. I thought, because it was like this kind of mystery about what's going on. Having said that, compared to the rest of the season, it's pretty good. I think I'm not sure how I would think about it if it had been in another time, but from that whole season, it seems quite good to me. I actually quite like that episode, but I think that once you know what it is, it doesn't stand up to further viewing. I don't.
Yeah, agreed. And it's got Tim's pet peeve in there as well, hasn't it? About it being
4.5 billion years.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, it felt to me like I'd been watching it for 4.5 billion years. So in that aspect, it was accurate.
Yeah, but compared to what came afterwards, it was a work of art.
It was like Groundhog Day, but turned up to 11.
Yes.
I mean, it would have taken long.
But compared to the next episode, it was good, because the next episode is dreadful beyond belief, in my opinion. Because you set up all this exposition and blah blah blah, and then he gets out into Gallifrey, and it's just bad.
Space diner, isn't it? We've got the space diner and the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the general changing sex thing, which I always took as being a fan wind-up. Those type of fans that don't like that sort of thing. I think he's just giving the old 2 fingers to people, which, from my opinion, is good on him for doing that. But I also think, do you really want to alienate your core audience? Like, I just don't see the point. And most of this is pointless, I think.
Yeah, I don't understand why Clara, is suddenly a sexy waitress in a diner. It doesn't really. There's no point to it, and it.
No.
I mean, other than the fact that Moffat fancied seeing her in a sexy waitress outfit in a diner. I mean, what's the point to it?
Husbands of River Song. And let's do the 2 Christmas specials, because we had a year off in between, didn't we? The Husbands of River Song and The Return of Dr. Mysterio. I didn't watch The Husbands of River Song until quite recently, because it had River Song in the title, but I thought I should, because I hadn't watched Twice Upon a Time either. And I watched them both. I didn't mind it as much as I thought I would.
It was Greg Davies is a bit over the top, but he's quite amusing. And the ending was quite touching. But as for The Return of Dr. Mysterio, I haven't actually watched that, so I can't actually comment on it.
Well, so Husbands of River Song I thought was funny, liked it, but it was forgettable.
Return of Dr. Mysterio.
I mean, I quite liked it first time round when it was Superman. and it was fine as as Doctor Who.
I loved it. I really enjoyed it, apart from the last 10 minutes where he gets all mopey about River Song. Well, we're nearly there, and we've talked previously